Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. It's Wednesday, which means it is Cardiff City and the Championship Day. That's all we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff, but it's only going to be the Championship and Cardiff City. It's going to be a lot of fun. A nice short, sharp, probably 45, 50 minutes of nothing but Cardiff City and the Championship. So if you've got any questions, you've got anything you want to talk about, now is the time to send it. As always, big shout out to the Sports Social Podcast Network. If you like your podcasts in audio form rather than watching them on video, then you can get all of the shows produced by Ace Podcast Nation under their various pages on the Sports Social Podcast Network, the UK's first independent sports podcast network as well. So always good. We're live on YouTube and Twitter tonight because Facebook, frankly, the last couple of weeks has been an absolute tool. So obviously, if you would like to, you're very welcome to drop a super chat in YouTube. Another way to support the channel, just like it is to become a member and join at patreon.com/Ace Podcast Nation. That is the stuff that keeps the lights on, people, keeps us going and helps us continue to provide multiple podcasts and shows per week. And content. We've got a new series coming soon, which is completely different, nothing to do with podcasting. So I'm excited for that too. Lots and lots of stuff, especially if you like your sport and your football and stuff like that. It's real good. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, we have a couple of slots still available. So you're more than welcome to get involved with that. And you can hit us up. We're talking to a few people at the moment, both local businesses and also sort of more nationwide or worldwide brands, as it were. But dip your toe in the water, get your name and your business out to other people, support a local content creator. What's better than that, I ask you? But anyway, on with the show. What are we going to talk about first? There's a lot to discuss. The title of the show is The Saudis Are In for Aaron Ramsey. Will it be the Bluebirds or will it be the Saudi Arabian League? Or will he indeed go back to Nice? Look, as far as I'm concerned, everything which I've heard is the Aaron Ramsey deal is pretty much done to Cardiff. Like, there was a few little details to work out. And I've also heard from a couple of different people that Aaron Ramsey is very set on coming to Cardiff. And to put anyone's mind at rest, I think there's actually family reasons why he wants to come back to Cardiff as well. I would be shocked if he didn't end up coming to Cardiff, I have to say. However, Gareth Bale, whilst people were telling me, who I knew, that the deal was done and he was coming, I always, it wasn't a shock to see him go to America because it made sense. From a lot of different reasons. It was disappointing, it was gutting because it felt like he was coming, but it is what it is. I don't think it's the same with Ramsey. Maybe I'll be wrong. But as far as I know, as far as I've been told, as far as I've heard, all signs point to Cardiff. We're just taking our time to get it done. And I'm sure it's quite a complex deal because I'm sure there's an element of not necessarily like a pay as you play, but I'm sure his basic wage is probably quite modest compared to what he got at Juventus and Nice and Arsenal and things. So I'm sure they'll build that up with other stuff, with merchandising, with image rights, with appearance bonuses, promotion bonuses, whatever it may be. There'll be a lot of little things, I think, to kind of build his contract up closer to what he's probably more accustomed to. But again, I'm guessing. So maybe it is a bit more complex than your average free transfer, as it were. But look, Cardiff have made a couple of signings, as we know. So we'll talk about them for a minute before we go back to Aaron Ramsey, because there is some stuff to unpack with Aaron Ramsey. With Nice made a statement saying they expect him back for pre-season, because he did have a year option and stuff like that. So there's clearly some stuff to sort out. It is what it is. Oliver Denham has joined Dundee on loan. I think that's a good move. Cardiff signing former Reading forward Yako Matey. Well, at least he can't score against us because he always seems to bloody score against us, so it feels like that. I think he's a good signing, he is. I think he's a really good signing. The Ivory Coast forward, 2-year deal. He's 27, good age. He turned down a new deal at Reading, obviously with their relegation and stuff. It feels like a good fit to me. I think he's exactly what we needed. I think he's an upgrade on Connor Wickham, who was obviously the sort of out-and-out number 9 towards the end of the season. And I thought Connor Wickham did a pretty good job in terms of how he linked up play and got the best out of Sorry-Caba. So I'm interested to see how he does because I think he'll score some goals, I've got to say. I think he's going to be a good signing. Rob, was it Rob? No, Matt Angel says, thoughts on the away kit? I really like it. I like it. Like, I think it's my favourite kit out of all of them. It's like a maroony, purpley. I like it. Will says, I saw Yako Matey at my physio appointment earlier. Unfortunately, didn't realise it was him till it was too late. Schoolboy error, mate. Schoolboy error. Another exit from Cardiff City. Dylan Phillips has gone to Rotherham. 28-year-old, left Cardiff at the end of the season. I'd done a loan in Belgium. Didn't quite work out for him. He kind of, he just didn't quite work out for him. He did all right at times, but didn't really play a great deal. But he joins former Cardiff City players Lee Peltier, Sean Morrison at Rotherham. Rotherham, there's some good deals that Rotherham have made so far. So they've got Matt Taylor in charge. They've signed or re-signed Lee Peltier, Sean Morrison, Tyler Blackett, and Grant Hall. Every single one of them, I think, is an excellent signing. Excellent signing. And I think that is really, for Rotherham, that's really promising, I've got to say. Keeping it on the exit fronts, Mark Harris gone to Oxford United, I think it was. Someone will tell me. Yeah, Oxford United. Look, worked hard, broke into the Wales side. If we're looking to improve on the recent seasons, is Mark Harris the guy to do it? I would suggest probably not. Was probably going to be a bench player, squad player, depending on who comes in. I understand it. I do, and I understand it from his point of view. I understand it from Cardiff's point of view. So it's very, very interesting how he does at Oxford. I'd like to see him go and do really, really well. What else has been going on? I can't remember if we discussed this on last week's show, but we signed Greece defender Dimitrios Goutuas on a 2-year deal, 29-year-old, very experienced. I think he's made a couple of appearances for Turkey as well. The manager's getting his people in. And I think the one thing which stands out for me with the Ramsey deal is Ramsey doesn't feel like it's the manager's player. It feels like a deal that was already in motion before he came. And I think there's an argument to be made that possibly the club or Mehmet Dalman, whoever it was, made a bit of a mistake saying about the big mystery signing, blah, 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 because they kind of put pressure on themselves with it. Whereas if they just kind of left it, and I understand why they trying to create a bit of positivity and sell season tickets, but they could have just left it and then let it develop on its own, because it got out in the media, as we know anyway. So it should have probably let it develop on its own, because I think, as I said earlier, I think it's quite a complex deal. And unfortunately, complex deals take time. And then since his contract date sort of run out, and then there's a bit of confusion over if he's free or if he's still at Nice. And maybe probably should have kept it quiet for as long as possible. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. I was a bit surprised to see Joe Bagan sign a new deal to stay at Cardiff. A little bit surprised, because I thought when we released, when they released the list of kind of players who are out of contract or leaving the club. I'm sure he was on that. So whether they intentionally, or maybe he just didn't then agree to deal at that point, I don't know. But maybe I'm wrong. But look, I think there's something there with him. I think he's a half decent player. Not sure he's going to play a great deal. So they've signed him to a new contract. So I'm assuming they see something in him. Does that come from the manager? Has that come from the club? I'm not 100% sure. But if he's not going to play, get him out on loan. Any of these young players, if they're not going to play, get them out on loan and get them out to good clubs who are going to play them week in, week out. Simple as that. Simple as that. They've got to do it. We've got to do better at where we're sending these players and getting them out to clubs where they're going to play football. 3-year deal he got, with a year option as well. Whew. Good for him. Good for him. Reese says, get Bagan out on loan now and get rid of Waters, Ojo and Simpson. That's interesting because I see this Ojo and Simpson particularly seem to have a little bit of support within the kind of social media ranks, if you like. Where do you guys what do you think of Ojo and Simpson, Waters? Are they ever going to be good enough? Do we loan them? Do we sell them? Do we just cut ties and try and reinvest the money? Look, I think the manager has got to get the players in that he wants. It's clear that he's moving now in terms of signings. So it's a case of letting him get the right players, working in the restrictions that Cardiff have got. Unfortunately, Cardiff have restrictions. So we can't just go out and maybe spend willy-nilly. We got to be a bit practical with it. So Nice said they expect Aaron Ramsey to return to the club for pre-season training. Wales captain's future remains uncertain. His contract expired last month, but there is a suggestion because he made 34 appearances last year, that's enough to trigger his extension. With no confirmation either way, the 32-year-old has held talks with Cardiff City about a potential return. But the Championship side are not the only club interested in signing Ramsey. The statement on Nice's website said the rest of the players who are involved in international matches over the summer will join up with the squad next week. Kasper Schmeichel, Aaron Ramsey, Kefren Turam, Anari and they'll all join up. So that sounds to me like they've triggered an additional year, which means Aaron Ramsey would cost something to sign in terms of, unless he's got an agreement or something, but it certainly makes it even more complex. Reese says Waters was really poor for Barnsley in League One last season. His movement, positioning was just non-existent. Yeah, I think he's a guy who needs to find his level, whatever it may be, whether it's League One, League Two, and really play games and excel and show what he can do. He seems to be a very confidence-based player, and every time I've seen him around that Cardiff squad, he just doesn't look confident in his own ability in terms of he doesn't look like he thinks he belongs. And I think that's a problem because it's it seems to have been like a long-term thing. I don't know what's going. I don't know if that's how he feels. It's just how it looks from the outside, to me at least. Matthew says 100% agree. I'd ship them all out. Rob says more chance of me being Mr. Universe than Max Waters scoring for Cardiff. Well, don't put yourself down, mate. I think you can still do it. Wales Online reported this week that Cardiff manager Errol Balut is eyeing up 10 new signings as he lays out his exciting transfer plans. We'll discuss that in just a second. Will says, I would like to keep Bagan as I think he has something about him, but the other two, I'm not fussed at this level. Matthew says, Tanner seems to be finding the net. Be interesting if he can keep up that form against the better teams now during pre-season. Well, so here's a question for you, Matt and everyone else, is with Tanner, He scored a couple of goals in pre-season, etc. But realistically, when everyone's fit and back, is he going to be behind the likes of Mate? Is he going to be behind the likes of... I can't remember his name. Who's the young striker who Danny Gabardon's his agent? Fuck's sake. Isaac Davis. Is he going to be behind those guys? And I think he's got form for doing quite well in pre-season. So, but then, the thing, right? If you do well in pre-season, but then don't get the chance when the season comes around, it's difficult. Because I see players at all clubs scoring goals, doing bits in pre-season, but then when the first team games and when all the first team players are back and the league games start, they're like on the bench, not getting on, or not even in the squad. It's difficult then because you can't take on that form from pre-season. It really is up to the manager, and I guess he will have a look at the when everyone's back and stuff and weigh it up against whether he thinks he can do it. And I'm sure he'll have some players he wants to bring in. Matthew said, I'd like to keep Bagan. Be interesting to see what the manager has said to him before he signed a new deal. Well, this is it. Like normally, you don't give someone a 3-year deal to then just ship them immediately out on loan. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? I don't know, man. Someone must have spoken to him to get him to sign. Let's have a look at this article from Wales Online this week. They're saying about the 10 new signings to revamp the squad that finished 21st in the division last year. But it was signed a 1-year deal with an option to trigger a further 2 if certain criteria is met. I would love to know what that criteria is. Mehmet Dalman has hailed him as an exciting appointment and one which hopefully signals the start of a new trajectory for the club, which has slid down the table on the year-on-year since the relegation from the Premier League. Okay. Sounds a bit interesting, doesn't it? And to do that, they need new signings. Despite being unable to pay for transfers, they had 3 superb loan players last year with Sori Kaba, Cedric Kipre, and Jadon Philogene. Question for you all. Would you describe all 3 of those players last year as superb? Okay, not saying they were good, not saying no, but I'm not saying what my opinion is. I'm asking you, were all 3 of them, bear in mind where we finished, how we played, that the whole thing, were all 3 of those players superb? Because superb to me is 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. So if you were rating those 3 players out of 10 for last season, what are you giving them? Go! Balut said he watched a couple of Cardiff City games last season. He's looking forward to meeting with the players when they report back for pre-season in a few weeks' time. I saw 2 games, so there I already had a thought in my head of that system I wanted to play. We need, in every department, offensive. Cardiff last season only scored 41 goals to second bottom scorer. In attack, we must invest, in my opinion. Also in midfield, attack is not just wingers. We need a number 10. This will start from the back with the goalkeeper. This is why I think Aaron Ramsey fits what the manager wants to do. Because I think if you get the right legs and players around him, he could link everything up and make it quite special. Like Aaron Ramsey playing number 10 behind Mate, for instance, sounds quite interesting to me. Let's have a look. Right, Reece says he needs games. Don't know how the international transfers work, but we need to loan him out with he must play X amount of games or you pay us a fee like we did to Liverpool for Gruitch. Yeah, I agree with that. You've got to get these players out on loan with an agreement that they have to play a certain amount of games. Will says Tanner had never been involved in a pro setup before last season, so hopefully after a year of being full-time, he can keep up fitness-wise. He's got talent, but it's very raw. Yeah, look, I think there's something there. And I agree with you. If you haven't been in a professional setup, it probably could take you a year to just get used to it all. But equally, the decision's got to be made. If he's not going to play, he has got to go on loan. And then it's like someone, Reese just said, make sure he's playing. Reese says Kipre was a proper leader at the back. Without him, I think we were in trouble. Philogene was exciting, had a bit about him. I think 3 of them played a huge part in keeping us up. Rob Boyle says, I wouldn't say superb. Philogene certainly improved with the managerial change. Will says, at times they were great, but not consistently. 6 or 7 out of 10 over the season. Will says, Kipre alone, I'd give an 8 out of 10 as I thought he led the team well. Rob says, I agree with Reese. Complete that season with those 3. Without those 3, we would have gone down. Yeah, I do think that without those 3, we would have gone down. I was just interested. It felt like they was maybe blowing them up a little bit by saying they were superb loan signings. I think Kipre was very, very good pretty much all season. I think he was a proper leader, excellent. Sorry Kaba did pretty well too. I thought Sorry Kaba did well when Carter Wickham was up there, so he had someone to play off and create, had someone creating space for him. Jaden Philogene, yeah, I thought he was pretty good. I thought they were probably 3 of Cardiff's best players last year, but I just wasn't sure if they were superb because we were shit generally. Let's have a look. So the manager, he says, my style, my favourite is 4-2-3-1, which I think is what we discussed recently with having Ramsey as the central part of the 3 behind the striker, and then 2 athletic midfielders, 1 slightly more defensive, and then 1 who's like a box-to-box, very technical, but technically good. But he says sometimes a 4-3-3. We could speak about a lot of systems. 3-5-2, 4-4-2. But in the game, all my players should know what we have to do within the game. Sometimes it's 3 at the back in a different system. At the start, it could look like a 4-2-3-1, but it could change depending on what we have to do. Baloo is the club's 5th manager in 2 years. Already, season ticket sales are up and close to 12,000 already. The 48-year-old knows he needs every one of them if the club is to start moving. So, yeah, I mean, look, he's saying all the right things. Oh, Stephen Caulker has had his say on the new manager. And he says this. The former Bluebirds centre-back has his say on Errol Balut. Stephen Caulker believes Errol Balut is the perfect fit for the Bluebirds and offered some insight into the type of football fans could expect. Balut has built his reputation in Turkey, was appointed to Bluebirds boss and as 2.5 year, following a 2.5 week recruitment process by the club. So what did Stephen Caulker said? So Stephen Caulker says, I think he's a good manager. He'll do well for Cardiff. Caulker told the BBC, I was a little bit surprised by his appointment because you don't often see Turkish managers move over to English football, but I think he's the perfect fit for the job. I would say if any Turkish managers were to make the move, he would be the one who would be the perfect fit. As is the modern way, supporters are now keen to see what style of football he plays when he takes the touchline in August. Caulker believes it'll be pragmatic of sorts, believes he'll get good results, light on his feet when it comes to need to adapt tactics. Now that is encouraging, I think, because sometimes I think some of the criticisms you can level at recent Cardiff managers is we haven't got a plan B. So if he's someone who can adapt during a game, I'm all for that. I don't think he's someone who's going to come here and play overly pretty football, Caulker said. We're kind of used to that, I think. But I don't think he's one of those managers who's focused on playing out from the back and playing through the lines. That's part of his game, absolutely. But a big part of his focus is winning football matches. That's good. I like most of that, I got to say. So, yeah, I'm interested. Interesting. He was asked, would he join Baloo at Cardiff City as he's left Wigan? He said, I've not had a conversation. I certainly won't be inviting myself to any club. He said, if Errol decides to pick up the phone, that's a conversation we'd have. But I spoke to him as a friend, offered support to help his family settle in. And he said, in terms of football, honestly, my only focus is Sierra Leone at the moment. So would you take Stephen Caulker on like a year deal? He's very experienced. I think he's still got something to offer. He's only 31. Very interesting. Reese says, 4-2-3-1, box-to-box man and a ball-winning midfielder next to him to shield the back line, allowing the fullbacks to push up. Wingers stay wide, and the number 10 is free to roam and dictate play. Exactly that, mate. Couldn't have said it better myself. And if you think of Aaron Ramsey being that one who's just allowed to roam and find those little pockets of space, I think that he could be very special in that role. But as we've said multiple times, if the right people are around him, if he's got the right midfield behind him. But also, I'll say it again, I think if that's the system and Ramsey's coming in, I think it's good for Ruben Corwell as well. Because I think Ruben Corwell can effectively be the backup for Ramsey as number 10, because Ramsey will need rests. So Ruben Corwell will get a good amount of starts, probably 20 odd in the league and stuff like that. Get off the bench, plenty of substitute experiences as well. He's training with the Welsh captain every day, but he's playing. That's the most important thing, is he can play in his favourite position, and he can also probably do a job out wide here and there and stuff like that. So I think it's good. Anyone else think we could do with a new keeper? I like Allslop, but I'm not convinced at all with Alnwick as his backup, says Matt. Rob Boyle says 100% we need a new keeper. Reese says, agree, Matt. Been saying for a while, Allslop is good with his feet, but he's a poor shot stopper. We need a keeper who does the basic stuff well. Forget the fancy footwork. Allslop, Will says Allslop might look better this season with a better team in front of him. And Rob says, I certainly would. Matt says, Si, you need to cut your boys' pocket money, buying your prime all the time. Oh, mate. I can't get enough of the red one. We don't drink the energy drink versions. We drink the hydration versions. Right. Reece says, I can see Robinson being number 10 mainly this season. If Rambo comes in, they'll alternate. They think they need to loan Ruben out. He needs to run a games, and he won't get that here. I guess it depends on what the manager thinks of him, because I think it's the perfect opportunity now, because Ramsey can't play 40, 50 games. So you can give him a good, 20 games without putting the pressure on him and saying, you are like the number 1, number 10. Robinson hasn't convinced me, certainly as like in that deeper role. I thought I quite liked him. He played off the left in one of the games. I thought he did a really good job. Could play. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it gives you options. You need options. Ruben Corwell is obviously very, very highly rated. But this season is a big season for him, and he needs to play. So if, in my opinion, if the manager is looking in his head and he's thinking, right, Ramsey's going to be my first choice, number 10, when he's fit. But then if he's not fit, I've got Robinson who's going to play there. If that's his thinking, then he needs to have a meeting with Ruben Corwell and say, listen, Ruben, we really rate you. You need to play. So we're going to send you on loan to X. We're going to put a thing in the contract which says they have to play X amount of games, or they got to pay us. And I want you to go and play your football, play week in, week out, create, score, show us what you can do. Have an option in there that you can recall him in January, if needs be, just in case he goes completely wild and just like scoring goal after goal after goal after goal. And then we just go like that. However, it all comes down to what sort of manager he is as well, isn't it? Is he the sort of manager who's going to put him aside, have a chat, explain things, or is he just going to go, no, you're not for me, sit in the corner on the bench or whatever, not play, and then if someone offers to loan him or sign him, then he'll say yes. Don't know, do we? Rob says, I think his brother Joel's going to be a better player. Yeah, mate, I've heard from multiple people within the football club that Joel Colwell is like someone that they are very, very excited about. Like really, really, like I don't know if it was on camera or not, but when I spoke to Darren Pearce, who was obviously like under 23s manager, he when Joel Colwell's name come up, he was beaming, like he was just very, very, very highly rated. And it's going to be interesting because I feel sorry for Ruben Colwell in a way, because I think we probably played him, or we put a lot on him because we were shit. And then he's had a few injuries, but like he barely played last year. And that's just no good to someone of his age. He has to play football to develop. Like he's still a young lad. He's clearly got something because he was in the Wales squad, like without even barely playing, or playing like a handful of games for Cardiff. So we have, like he's this somewhere, something, people have seen him as something quite special. So it's a case of getting him to a place where he can show it, if that's at Cardiff or if that's on loan. What I don't want to do is sell him for peanuts and then he goes and does bits and ends up like a superstar in the Premier League, because that'll just be another name that Cardiff have kind of wasted away from their academy system. We'll see. Reece says, couldn't agree more. Rob looks a lot better. I'm torn about Ruben. I think that due to us being so poor, that's what I just said, we threw him in and all got a bit excited by one or two nice touches. Hasn't done enough for me since. Yeah, I'm not sure what the best thing to do is. Like thinking about it now, like I've kind of been looking at it as if Ramsey comes in, Colwell could be his number 2 and it would work quite well, training together and the Wales captain, and you can really help bring him on, bring him out of himself and show him some stuff. But if Robinson was to be preferred in that position ahead of Colwell by the manager, he's got to go out on loan. He's got to. Like, if he has another season like he did last year, where he's on the bench, picks up an injury, plays like a handful of minutes, he's going to end up getting sold next year for next to nothing, because his contract will be another year down the line. He'll have another season of not really playing, and then it's a problem. Like, I want him to succeed, but he's got to play. Rob says, let's not turn him into the Welsh Lingard or Dele Alli. Well, honestly, mate, he's not as good as them at the moment. Now, he could be. He might go and turn out to be. But on current displays and what he's shown, what he's been able to show, he's not done anything near as what Dele Alli did at a young age at MK Dons, and then came onto the Premier League and just did it there as well. You know, and Lingard had periods, scored goals in FA Cup finals and has done, bits here and there. But you can't show what you can do if you're sat on the bench. You can't show what you can do if you're not in the squad. And too often last year, Ruben Colwell was either on the bench, didn't get on, or wasn't even in the squad. I would be interested to know how many under-23s games he played in, because if he didn't play in many of those, he barely played any football last year, really. So, yes, that. Just seen something which has in Sydney Van Hooijdonk. Who could tell me about that? I know nothing about that. And he seems to have been linked with or signed by Cardiff City. Sidney van Hooijdonk is a Dutch professional footballer, plays up front for Bologna and Serie A. So why was he just on that page linked to Cardiff? Who could tell me? Have we been linked with him? Sidney van Hooijdonk. Have Cardiff City been linked with him? Why was he just on that page? Let's Cardiff City. Right. He needs to run a games room and go well. I just don't see him getting a string of 10, 15 starts. I'd loan him out, 3-month deal, allow us to extend it for 6 months or longer if we want to. Rob says, agree, 3 months in League 1 or 2, guaranteed starter every week. You've got to just pick the right club. He said, to be fair, I know it's just friendly, but the youngsters all look good. All look like they've got something about them. So I'd be floating them all out on loan. Yeah, to be honest, right, the under-23s leagues in the Premier League and the Championship is shit. It's so pointless. Like, they should either... Well, no, they should bring back the genuine reserve team leagues, because the under-23s league doesn't prepare them for men's football. Playing men's football prepares you for that. So you got to go on loan, or you got to play like out reserve team football. To me, so yeah, like Ruben Corwell's is a conundrum, I gotta say, because I agree with you, Reese. He probably isn't going to get a string of like 10, 15 starts, but if he was the second choice beyond Ramsey, he would probably get 15 to 20 starts over a season. So I don't know. It's going to come down to whether the manager fancies him. So Sidney van Hooijdonk was linked with a Cardiff loan move, but that was way back in January. So I don't know why that's popped up on the old transfer rumour mill again. Interesting. Interesting indeed. Who would you like to see Cardiff go out and get now? If there was like realistic one position, one player who you think, go get him now, he would make us better, who would you go for? Tell me who you think. Let's have a little nose at the old Championship generally news, shall we? Before we sort of look to wrap up. What have you all thought of Cardiff City in the pre-season so far? I know they haven't been like the top level friendlies, but like, who stood out for you? Who's done well? Who hasn't done well? Southampton have signed Manchester City midfielder Shea Charles for an undisclosed fee. I'll tell you what, right? Man City do a hell of a job of selling players who have never played first team football. Because I bet you he went for a good few million. They sell these players on potential. They sold that keeper who saved the penalty in the Euro Cup final. He's never played a first team game. And they sold him for like nearly 20 million. They're selling these players on potential. No other club seems to be able to do that. It's wild. Willie Caballero, former Manchester City goalkeeper, Leicester City, is now assistant manager at Leicester City, which is an interesting one. You don't see many goalkeepers kind of become managers and assistant managers. On the goalkeeper front as well, shout out and whatnot to Edwin van der Sar, who's had a brain hemorrhage and is in critical care in hospital. One of my favourite goalkeepers. By all accounts, seems to be a lovely guy. So best wishes to him and his family. Hopefully he recovers well. Willie Caballero is an interesting one. Gotta say. Reese says, personally, Oliver Norwood, Daniel Johnson, John Flack, Jake Cooper, new keeper, Billy Sharp maybe coming off the bench, be good. Tommy Doyle, Cody Dramer, Liam Delap on loan. Well, you're all much, mate, you. I think Oliver Norwood could do a real good job as the kind of box-to-box, the technical midfielder. Because I think alongside, if you put him alongside like a real good defensive midfielder who's going to shield the defence, I think Oliver Norwood could be excellent at spraying the ball about, linking up with maybe Ramsey. Yeah, I think that could be incredible. Matthew says, apologies if this has already been mentioned, but thoughts on Mark Hudson going to Sheffield United? It's a good move for him, mate, I got to say. I felt a little bit sorry for Mark in terms of, like, he kind of just got thrown in at the deep end again with Cardiff, and it probably wasn't the right time. I actually think in the future, I think Mark Hudson will end up being a good manager. Maybe not like top level, but I think he'll be a good championship-ish manager. But I think, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, he got thrown in at Huddersfield, got thrown in at Cardiff, probably before he was ready for that type of job. But I actually think this is a good fit for him because he can take a bit of a back seat. He's doing the defensive coaching, suits him. He knows that. He knows how to do it well. And I think he can build up his coaching sort of abilities and kind of go through like an apprenticeship almost of different coaching jobs and assistant manager job maybe, and then go back to the managerial thing, because I think he's got a lot of the capabilities to do it. I just think it was a bad choice a good choice at the wrong time with regards to Mark Hudson and Cardiff. I believe that at a later date he could have come back and been a good manager for Cardiff. It just wasn't the right time. But I commend him for stepping in when he was needed, and I commend him for the way he conducts himself at all times. He's a top bloke. Matthew Angel says, Paul Mullen. Look, money's tight and you need a striker. There's worse options. But I tell you what, mate, if you went to Ryan Reynolds and you said, we want to sign Paul Mullen, bet you he'd quote you at least 5 million. At least 5 million. No way they'd sell him. Not a chance. And I don't think he'd want to leave either. I think they're going to get promoted again this year, I do. Oliver Norwood is quality for this level, says Rob Boyle. And Reece says he's been promoted now with 3 or 4 teams. As soon as they get promoted, he gets let go. He's also a set piece specialist. Yeah, Oliver Norwood is I'm surprised no one's picked him up yet. Reece says, well done to Mark Hudson. I thought it was a bad decision to give him the manager's job. Temporary was fine, but then move him back to a coach. But they appointed him and then let him go. Yeah, and I think, look, if he had stayed on as a first-team coach, I think he could have then progressed and done quite well and maybe become a good manager or even the Cardiff manager. But instead, they gave him the job on a full-time basis, which was a mad choice for me. And Matthew says, yeah, he's always be a legend. Tell you who I think was a cracking little signing this week was, I'm going to butcher his name, but Coventry signed Japan midfielder Tatsuri Sakamoto. He's a baller, mate. I really like him. He's 26, great age. Japan international. The very little I've seen of him, he looks very interesting signing. Could be what Kimbo Young should have been for us. Coventry made some interesting signings, man. They've signed Jay De Silva from Bristol and Ellis Sims from Everton, plus Sakamoto. 3 good signings, in my opinion, for a team who'd already done quite well last year. Can't fault that, in my opinion. Cannot fault it. Cafu has left Rotherham and gone... left Nottingham Forest and gone to Rotherham. Interesting signing. I thought he was pretty good. Like, not amazing, but I thought he's pretty... I think he's quite a good signing for Rotherham. What else we got? Who was that guy Cardiff were linked with? And then it was being a bit off again. Begins with EJ. Cardiff been linked with this player. I can't remember his name. Not the Cafu, unfortunately, Rob. But he is 30. There's been a player linked with Cardiff. I can't remember what his name is. And it's been off again, on again. That's it. Thank you, Jonathan Davis. Chidere Ejuke. I probably said his name wrong, but someone who I would normally trust quite implicitly told me the other day that he was coming, and I did not believe it. It's the first time I've never believed this person. But then I saw someone else talking about it. So then I was like, all right, okay, so is that a thing? But I don't know. I think it's ambitious. But we signed that Canadian international striker, didn't we? Ugbo. We got Mate. We've got obviously Ramsey's in the pipeline. Let's have a look what the latest is on Chidera Ejuke. Report from Wales Online over the weekend had informed that Cardiff are striving to engineer a deal for the winger. There was apparently a lot of red tape pertaining to his contract situation in the Russian capital. However, according to the Russian outlet PFC CSKA, Ejuke has now taken a decision to suspend his contract till the end of the season, as FIFA rulings enable players to take such measures due to the nation's invasion of Ukraine. It's not the first time the 25-year-old has done so, having temporarily froze terms last year so he could broker a deal to join Berlin on loan in the Bundesliga. The ultimatum will surely provide a significant boost for Cardiff's pursuit, given that they're still prohibited from administering transfer fees until January. So it does look like there's something there. He's a bit of a player, mind him. I think he'd do a similar job to what Jadon Philogene did. So Jonathan says apparently his agent's looking for a better deal, but I wouldn't surprise me, mate, whatsoever. Absolutely not. I don't speak to that person, Robert Boyle. In fact, someone told me that he's in prison. I don't know if that's true. Not Ejuke, the person who Rob Boyle just talked about. I have no idea if that's true, but so that's why I didn't name the person. But no, I don't speak to him. Let's be honest. Yeah, but then so sorry, Jonathan. Yeah, you said about his agent, which I agree with, but then from what that Russian outlet was saying, it seems like there might be something in it. I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Reese says Rotherham seem to have a much bigger budget than recent season. They seem to have gone for experience over youth. I think there's something to that, though, mate. In the Championship, I think experience goes a long way, and then having one or two younger players to be the legs. Young Burnley centre back has been linked to Cardiff as well. Bobby Thomas. As far as I'm concerned, Cardiff City got to go with what the manager wants. So if the manager wants certain players and the transfer committee doesn't know who they are or doesn't want to sign them, tough shit. Because this guy is on a year deal with the option. What's the point in giving him a deal if you then tell him who he's going to have or you refuse to sign the players that he wants? QPR and Cardiff eyeing Burnley transfer agreement. Yeah, Bobby Thomas, Burnley defender. Could be another one. We've done. What's our record like in the loan market? You think? It's like sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Overall, historically speaking, I think Cardiff have done quite well over loans. My favourite ever loan is probably a level between Eddie Newton and Gary O'Neill. Gary O'Neill was my favourite loan, I think. I loved him. But then, I don't include some others who maybe who went on to sign for us permanently. But, look, I think Cardiff have done a pretty good job with loans. Let's have a look. Recent loans are better than recent signings, yeah, 100%. Jason Kumas, 100%. Eddie Johnson, no, not having that at all, mate. I like Eddie, and he was a cult hero, but I don't think he did it as a footballer, honestly. Jason Kumas, I'd have all day. Reese says, read something earlier, can't find the link now, but said clubs in the lower league use Football Manager to scout players to save money from sending scouts to find players. That wouldn't surprise me. And do you know why it wouldn't surprise me? It's because football is so stat-orientated these days that Football Manager is so detailed with those stats. And you've got websites like FB Ref and things like that. They're so detailed, they almost give you full scout reports. So if you're in a non-league, League Two, whatever, and you haven't got much money, then you've got to just use what you can get. Unfortunately, there's a problem with that, in my opinion, is that stats are great, but they don't tell the whole story. And I think when it comes to football, you need the eye test as well. You need to see players playing in a game situation, because there's people who can do incredible things with a football, with their feet and keepy uppies and all this shit. But when you put them on in a match, they're shit. There's people who can't do those skills, who look a bit clumsy or maybe haven't got the coordination to pull off those tricks. Put them in a football pitch and they do a phenomenal job. So, look, I think it's a good idea. I do. Use any tools that you can use them. Jonathan says Cabba, Hugel, Ramsey, Bellamy. Yeah, the recent loans or just loans generally seem to do better at loaning players. But then there's been a few duds in there as well, I think, in the loan market. Jason Kumas, man. Just love him. His boy, Rob Boyle says, love the fact his boy is training with the first team at Liverpool. Yeah. Charlie Savage is, Charlie Savage went on, he made his debut in the Europa League last year, didn't he? But he went on the pre-season with United last year and he did quite well. I watched him play. Might have a nose at him if he gets a game. It's better than his dad already. But his dad had a success. People mock Robbie Savage. Had a successful career. Not every player is going to go and win Premier Leagues and all the rest of it. Ravel Morrison, massive loan flop. Did he play? Was it him or was it Zaha? We signed someone and it was like, oh, wow, he's going to be sick in the Championship. And then he just literally sat on the bench all season. Didn't play. Ravel Morrison, that's like the equivalent of his whole career, isn't it? So much potential and ability, and some of the best footballers and managers to ever play the game have said he's like one of the best players they've ever seen, and he did nothing with it. Nothing. Sad. Reece says, Kumas, he was probably one of the best technical footballers they've ever seen at Cardiff. I love Peter Whitnam, and no other outfield player comes close to him, but Jason Kumas was special. Yeah, mate. Jason Kumas was, for me, one of the best players I've seen play at Cardiff City in the whole my life. He was so good. I cannot even begin to tell you, for the younger viewers, who maybe were wee babies at the time, he was just so good, so good, and he's just so elusive. And I love the fact that he was so good. He had his football career, and now he's just fucked off into the middle of nowhere, and no one can get hold of him. I love it. I think that's great. Good for him. He's living his life on his terms. But going to look towards wrapping that up there now, ladies and gentlemen. So if you've got any questions, get them in now. You've got like a minute or two to get any questions you want to ask in. We will be back tomorrow for the weekly football news. I'm hoping to get a guest on the Cardiff City show next week. It won't be like an ex-player or anything. It'll be someone from media to try and get him to piece together some stuff. But yeah, we're gonna do some football weekly tomorrow. We're gonna look at all the different sign-ins and rumours and all these different things that are going on at the moment. Lots of rumours about all sorts of players. It's interesting stuff. Question from Matt Angel: will I be in the Cardiff City? Am I going back to the Cardiff City stands at all this season? Will I end my exile? When will I end my exile? Well, mate, I said that I wouldn't go back until the ownership changed. I have already broken that, though, as you know. So we'll see. Saturday's a busy day for me, so my habits have just changed. Like, it's just, I don't know. I saw another question somewhere. When's Andy back? Piss off, Rob. I've answered that already. Yeah, we've already talked about the away kit. Come on, Matt. Reese. Keep up, mate. Come on. Reese, there's a great article on Wales Online called Finding Jason Kumas, and it goes into how he has no love for football and it was just a career for him and he doesn't talk to the media or anyone. It's a great read. Yeah, mate. It is. Was it Kev or someone else? One of them said, like, no one can get hold of him. Like, he's just not interested whatsoever in having any sort of conversation or catching up with people. It was his job. He's done it. Carry on. Good for him, man. Whatever he needs to do to be happy, I'm happy for him. Because what a player. He made me happy once upon a time. So let him have his happiness is what I say. Right, guys. Be back tomorrow, probably about 8 o'clock. But look out on social media. And obviously I'll sort of say the time in the early evening. And if you're not already, sign up to patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. Make sure to check out Sports Social Podcast Network. Also had some new merch drop the other day. Loyalty's Dead is my favourite brand, my favourite range. So you can have a look at that if you want. I'm sure you can guess which show that's about. And we got some other stuff. I got a sample of one of them coming, I think. But the Loyalty's Dead one is my favourite. So yeah, there's different ways to support the channel if you'd like to. But most of all, make sure you like the video because that helps us move up the algorithm and stuff like that. Like the video, share the video. The other thing, could I ask all the people in the live chat and stuff, is after the show, drop a comment on this video, but in the comment box underneath, because all the comments we get on like the live chat, none of them count towards the algorithm. It's so shit the way YouTube do it. So they just kind of disappear into the ether of the live chat. It's ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. In the meantime, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy.